In Charles Dickens's Oliver Twist, the darkness of London's criminal underworld is counterbalanced by moments of light, compassion, and decency. Among the novel's more benevolent figures, Mr. Brownlow stands out as a crucial moral and narrative force. As a wealthy, elderly gentleman who takes an interest in Oliver, Brownlow functions as protector, guardian, and surrogate parent. His presence helps secure the novel's resolution, but more importantly, his role highlights Dickens's thematic concerns with morality, social responsibility, and the enduring possibility of goodness in a corrupted world. To understand Brownlow is to see Dickens's vision of what compassionate middle-class morality might achieve in the face of widespread neglect. Role in the narrative. Narratively, Mr. Brownlow enters the story at a pivotal moment. After Oliver is wrongly accused of theft, Brownlow intervenes, not with vengeance but with mercy. Instead of handing Oliver over to punishment, he takes the boy into his home, nurses him back to health, and offers him kindness that Oliver has never before experienced. This early gesture establishes Brownlow as one of the novel's key counterpoints to the cruelty Oliver endures in the workhouse, on the streets, and within Fagin's gang. Brownlow's home functions as a haven, a temporary refuge from the violence and corruption of the outside world. However, Oliver's removal from this refuge by Fagin and Sykes demonstrates how precarious innocence is when set against systemic criminality. The contrast between Brownlow's household and Fagin's den is one of Dickens's clearest narrative juxtapositions. One represents stability, morality, and order. The other chaos, exploitation, and vice. As the story progresses, Brownlow becomes more than just a kind benefactor. He emerges as an active agent in uncovering Oliver's true identity. His determination to learn about Oliver's parentage and his confrontation with monks demonstrate his role not simply as a passive protector, but as a figure of justice. Through his investigations, Oliver's legitimacy is restored, and his place in society is secured. Without Brownlow's persistence, Oliver might remain vulnerable to the schemes of monks and the destructive influence of Fagin and Sykes. By the conclusion, Brownlow adopts Oliver, ensuring that the boy's future will be one of safety and comfort. In terms of plot, Brownlow is thus indispensable. He rescues Oliver twice, first from physical danger, later from the uncertainty of his social position. Symbolic significance. On a symbolic level, Mr. Brownlow represents benevolent paternal authority. And where most adult figures in Oliver's life either neglect or exploit him, the parish authorities, Mr. Bumble, Fagin, Sykes, Brownlow embodies the protective, moral parent Oliver has lacked. Dickens contrasts this benevolent fatherhood with the corrupted parenthood of Fagin, who trains boys into criminality, and monks, whose malice toward his half-brother denies any sense of family loyalty. Brownlow demonstrates what faithful guardianship should be: nurturing, forgiving, and guided by moral duty rather than self-interest. Brownlow also symbolizes the triumph of moral conscience over suspicion and prejudice. Initially, he briefly doubts Oliver, influenced by circumstantial appearances and the boy's sudden disappearance. Yet his willingness to re-examine his assumptions, to trust compassion rather than cynicism, highlights Dickens's belief in the importance of giving the vulnerable a chance. Brownlow's openness to believing in Oliver's goodness is what allows innocence to be preserved. Symbolically, he represents the victory of faith in human decency over society's tendency to assume guilt, especially toward people with low incomes. Another layer of symbolic resonance lies in his name itself, Brownlow. Critics have noted that the earthy, grounded quality of Brown, combined with the nobility of Low, suggests a synthesis of humility and dignity. He is both ordinary in his humanity and elevated in his morality. A gentleman not corrupted by arrogance but ennobled by compassion. Broader implications. Brownlow's significance extends beyond his personal kindness. He represents Dickens's vision of what the middle and upper classes ought to do in a society marked by poverty and injustice. Dickens was acutely aware of the failures of Victorian institutions, the workhouse, the parish authorities, and the legal system, all of which neglected or abused Oliver. In contrast, Brownlow demonstrates how private individuals can exercise moral responsibility. He does not wait for institutions to act but personally intervenes, providing shelter, education, and care. This depiction reflects Dickens's broader social critique. While Dickens condemns systemic cruelty, he simultaneously calls for individuals of conscience to mitigate suffering. Brownlow embodies the idea that those with wealth and stability have a duty to extend compassion to the vulnerable. In this way, he is not merely a character but also a moral exemplar, a model for Dickens's middle-class readership. At the same time, Brownlow's role raises questions about dependency and paternalism. Oliver's survival depends on the goodwill of a wealthy benefactor. This dynamic underscores Dickens's ambivalence. While he champions compassion, he also reveals how the fate of the poor is precariously reliant on the generosity of the privileged. Brownlow's benevolence may highlight Dickens's ideals, but it also exposes the structural inequalities that leave children like Oliver at the mercy of chance encounters with kind individuals. Brownlow's actions against monks also reflect Dickens's preoccupation with justice. His confrontation with monks is not driven by vengeance, but by fairness. He seeks to restore Oliver's rights while offering monks a chance at rehabilitation. This nuanced approach emphasizes Dickens's belief in moral responsibility tempered with mercy, in contrast to the brutal punishments common in Victorian society. Brownlow embodies a model of justice rooted in conscience rather than retribution. Mr. Brownlow has endured in literary memory as the archetype of the benevolent guardian. His role has been highlighted in countless adaptations of Oliver Twist, where he often appears as the emotional anchor of the story. In a narrative filled with corruption and violence, Brownlow reassures readers that justice, kindness, and humanity are possible. Conclusion: Mr. Brownlow in Oliver Twist is not simply a minor benefactor, but a pivotal force within the narrative. He rescues Oliver from physical danger, restores his legitimacy, and ensures his future security. Symbolically, he embodies benevolent paternal authority, compassion, and moral responsibility. On a broader level, Brownlow reflects Dickens's vision of how individuals of conscience might counteract social injustice, even as his role highlights the precarious reliance of the poor on the charity of the privileged. By the end of the novel, Mr. Brownlow stands as one of Dickens's most enduring representations of goodness. A reminder that amidst cruelty and corruption, there remains the possibility of kindness that not only protects the vulnerable, but also reaffirms the moral conscience of society itself.